Welcome to Game Fondue Reviews. In this video, we're going to take a look at Ghost Stories. Ghost Stories is a cooperative game where players are playing as Taoist monks to banish incarnations of Wufeng from attacking a village. Let's jump right in with a description of the rules, see a few example turns being played, and I'll be back for some closing remarks. This is Ghost Stories set up for a 4-player game. First thing you're going to do to set up is you're going to shuffle up these tiles and lay them out in a 3x3 grid like so it's random every time. Also, each player is going to pick a color and put their guy in the middle. Also, they take the personal board of that, and each board has a different ability on each side. You're supposed to choose random according to the rule book, but if you pick, I don't think your teammates are going to tell on you because it is a fully cooperative game. Then you just lay out the dice and the various tokens in a supply around the board. Also, these haunting figures and some of these lose powers as well. If you're playing a 4-player game, you're not going to use these power tokens, but they do come into play with smaller player counts. So if you're less than 4 players, each player is going to take one of these no matter what difficulty you play on. Also, you're going to remove some cards from the deck. In a 3-player game, you're going to remove 5 cards. In a 2-player game, you're going to remove 10 cards, but don't look at them. Also, in a 2-player game, the partners are going to sit across from each other. The last part of the setup varies quite a bit based on the difficulty level. The beginner difficulty level, each player actually gets 4 chi, 1 black token, and the token in their color along with their yin-yang. But the next level up is they get 3 chi, the 1 in their color, and the yin-yang. And this is the normal difficulty. In the nightmare difficulty, which is what we're going to be doing, you get exactly the same thing. And in the hell difficulty, you get the same thing, less a yin-yang. So you're not going to start with your yin-yang. The difference between the normal and the nightmare mode is the number of Wufeng cards in the deck. If you're playing on that beginner level or that normal level, you're just going to put 10 cards at the bottom, and then you're going to put 1 Wufeng card on top of them and the whole rest of the deck there. But if you're playing on the nightmare or hell level, then you're going to lay out 10 more cards and another Wufeng, 10 more and another Wufeng, and 10 more and the last Wufeng. In a 3 or 4-player game on Nightmare or Hell, you're going to get 4 Wufengs. In a 2-player game, you're just going to get 3, but it works the same way. You put 10 and a Wufeng and 10 and a Wufeng. So players take turns, and each turn is broken down into 2 phases, the Yin phase and the Yang phase. During the Yin phase, it's essentially the ghost's turn or the game's turn, where it's kind of just going to play itself. In the Yang phase, you get to move and take an action. The players win collectively if they exercise all the Wufengs in their deck. So if you're just playing for the first time, it's probably 1 Wufeng, but in this case, as mentioned, it's 4. But players lose collectively if all the Taoists die, not just one of them, it has to be all of them. 3 locations on the board become haunted, or the last card of the deck is drawn. You have to get rid of those Wufengs before the deck runs out. So let's go through that Yin phase, which is broken down into 3 parts. First, the ghost's actions. Then you're going to check if your board is overrun. And then a new ghost is probably going to arrive. So the first thing is the ghost actions. When you have a ghost on your board, he might have an effect in the middle, like so. If he does, anything in the middle takes place at this time. So let's go over the different ones. This one right here is a haunter. So when a haunter comes out, you start with a little haunter on him, and then during the effect, it moves up. If it's already here when it's time to move up, it goes to this space, haunts the first tile in front of it, which if this one's already haunted would be this one, and so on, and then goes back to the card. So every other turn, essentially, they're going to be actually haunting a tile. And when a tile's haunted, it's totally unusable. The next effect is the Tormentor, and the Tormentor looks like this, and it has a little black dice on it. When that effect takes place, you roll the black dice and you do what it says, and most of these sides are really bad. Like there you lose a chi, here you get a tile haunted, here you have to summon a new monster, you're going to lose all your tokens. It's just lots of badness, but then there are a couple sides where nothing happens like you just saw. So all the ghosts on a board that have an effect do it. It's not just one. And then after they're done all their effects, you check if the board is overrun. The board is overrun if it's totally full. So in this case, this is not overrun yet, but if it had one more guy here, it would be overrun. If it's overrun, you lose 1 chi, and then you don't proceed to step 3. So you don't do step 3, but if the board is not overrun, you don't lose anything. And then step 3 is you draw a new ghost. So you draw that ghost and you have to place him on the board. If he's the color of a particular board, that's where he's going to go. So if, for instance, if you draw a yellow and there's space on yellow, you're going to put him there. If there's not space on yellow, he's got to go somewhere else, and you can choose any of the spaces. But if he's black, he's going to go on your own board if there's space there. And some cards cause you to bring out new things. Any effect on the left of a card happens immediately when it comes on the board. So for example, this one, as soon as this one is brought out, you actually have to draw another monster. So it's even possible that you have to draw a monster or a ghost when all 12 of these spaces are occupied. If that's the case, you don't draw one, but you lose 1 chi. So after you get through the yin phase, you move to the yang phase, and this has 3 parts. You can move, you can attempt an exorcism or use an ability, and then you can place Buddhas if you got them. So the first part is move, and that's totally optional, but you can move 1 space, and you can move diagonally, so if you're in that middle space, you can get to anywhere. Move has to happen first, but after you move, or if you choose not to move, you can use the ability of the space you stand on. And they all have different abilities, and we'll go through them more in depth in the playthrough. As an alternative to using an ability, if you're on a space that's adjacent to some ghosts, like for example, let's put this one back up and put you over here. If you're in this corner space, you're actually adjacent to 2 ghosts. You can either use this ability or you can attempt to exorcise them. To attempt to exorcise them, you roll the dice, and whites are wild like we have there, and if you match the things on them, you defeat them. So for in this example, he got a yellow, and he can use this as a red, so he can actually defeat 2 ghosts in 1 turn because he's on a corner. Normally, most of the spaces here, 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 and here, you're not going to be next to 2, but you can still defeat the 1. The one rule there is if you can defeat a ghost, you must. But in addition, if you, let's say you were here and you rolled these, he actually requires 4 yellow to take him down. You only had 2. You can add Tau tokens to your value of the matching color to help you along. Also, if other players are in the same space as you, they can lend you some Tau tokens to defeat things as well, but that's the only time you can really give them to another player. Some ghosts have abilities that occur on the right side of the card, like here, and those happen when this guy is defeated. So he's defeated, you either get a chi or a yin yang. You can only ever have 1 yin yang in your color, but you can have as much chi as you can get a hold of. The last phase of a turn is to place a Buddha. So if you'd gotten a Buddha on an earlier turn, this space here is just to take a Buddha as the action. You can place him. You can't place a Buddha the same turn you got him, but if you've had this Buddha for a while, if you're next to a space at the end of your turn that's empty, so let's say who's here, you can place a Buddha here on this little Buddha space. If any ghost is summoned to that space, it's immediately destroyed and you return the Buddha. Nothing on the left happens and no rewards on the right will happen either. But that can be very strong to keep some things off the board. Also, if for whatever reason you had 2 Buddhas and you ended in a corner space, you can place both of them in 1 turn. But again, only on empty spaces that you're next to. You also probably start the game with a yin yang unless you're on that crazy, insane difficulty level. And the yin yang can be used during your turn in one of 2 ways. One is to unhaunt a tile. So if this tile is haunted, you just put your yin yang in the bank and you unhaunt it. Any tile you want, you don't have to be on it. You can also use your yin yang in addition to your regular action to take another action. You don't even have to be on the space, but you just discard it and you do that action. So yin yangs can be very powerful. If you die, and the way a Taoist dies is he runs out of chi. Chi is essentially your health. You go to the cemetery space, wherever it may be, and you lie down. When a Taoist dies, all of his tokens and Buddhas and everything like that is returned back to the supply or to where they belong. You don't get to keep any of it. This player doesn't get to take any more turns until they're brought back to life, which can happen on this space here. But still, parts 1 and 2 of their yin phase do occur. They don't draw any more cards, but they do have to check if their board is overrun, and they do have to use the abilities of ghosts on their board. Speaking of neutral boards, remember these power tokens are used in games with less than 4 players. And what you can do is you can play a power token on your turn, in addition to your regular stuff, to use the ability of a board that no player controls. So if you're in a 2-player game, for instance, and these 2 boards aren't even in use, you could do that to use this ability or that ability. You can use multiple power tokens in a turn if you got them, but you can only use the one ability each. So even if I did 2 power tokens, I couldn't use this blue ability twice. After you use a power token, it goes to the center space, and any player who finishes their turn there can take any or all of the power tokens there. Just like dead Taoists, neutral boards do 1 and 2 steps of their yin phase, but they never summon any cards. Also, no matter what difficulty you're playing, neutral boards start with 3 chi, but they can never gain chi. So if they go down to 0, you lose the ability to be able to use their ability. So you can't use a power token to take the ability of a neutral board without chi. Just like in the regular game, if a neutral board would go below 0, another player has to lose that chi. Lastly, there's some special rules with the Wufeng incarnations, and those are that Buddhas never affect them, so you can't just summon a Wufeng on a Buddha and destroy him, although that would be really nice. Also, this space here cannot defeat them either. This space allows you to sacrifice a chi to just kill any monster, but Wufeng is immune to that. They are affected, however, by the Circle of Prayer here and the Enfeeblement Mantra, which we'll show during the game. The only other thing to note about Wufeng is that players don't win unless they survive his effects on the right. Some Wufengs, after you defeat them, require you to roll a curse die or something of that nature. And if you do that and you lose, like in this case, when you defeat him, you have to roll a curse die, you'll actually lose the game. You have to survive whatever happens on the right. And no dead Taoist can receive the reward from Wufeng because he often rewards chi. You can't just give him to a dead guy and bring him back to life. This is the only way to bring him back. Let's get going with this playthrough. We're going to start with the green player just because he's closest to me. So during his yin phase, first the actions of the ghost happen. He has no ghost yet, and obviously his board's not overrun. So he draws a new one, and it's blue. So he's got to put it somewhere on a blue space. He's just going to stick it over here in the middle of blue's board. And now he gets to go to his yang phase. So first he has the option to move if he'd like to, and then he can take the ability of the space he's on or attack a ghost. He decides he's going to stay right where he is, so he's not going to move, but he is going to use this Circle of Prayer. And what that does is you pick a color. If later you pick a different color, you have to replace it. And now all ghosts are weakened by one of that color. So, example, this guy actually requires 2 blue to defeat, but as long as this Circle of Prayer has a blue on it, he only takes 1 blue to defeat. So now we move to the blue player. He has no ghosts with actions, which are the middle part. If this guy's defeated, though, you will have to roll the curse die. So then he moves on to his board being overrun. Of course, it's not. And then he draws a card. It's a green one with a whole lot of stuff, but if you defeat him, you get 2 Tau tokens. So he's just going to stick him in the middle of green's board. He's not too worried about that guy for right now. So then the blue player is going to go over here, and he's going to use his special ability, which allows him to take an action twice. So he's actually going to grab 2 Buddhas. He would love to place them right now, but you can't place them the turn you get them. So he's going to try placing them next turn. Then it goes to yellow, and he's going to work the same way. Again, no things on his board yet. But uh-oh, a red guy with a haunter on it. So he's going to stick him over here in this corner, and he's going to put that haunter on it. Now remember, during red's turn, this haunter is going to move up and proceed to try to haunt the tiles. So for yellow's turn, he's first going to use his ability, which is an enfeeblement mantra. He can put that on a ghost to weaken it by 1 of any color. He can choose the color at the time the dice are rolled. And then he's going to go over here and he's going to fight this guy to try to exercise it. So he rolls the 3 dice. He happened to get 2 red anyway because this is wild. But with the mantra, he was going to defeat it no matter what he rolled. So mantra comes back. This ghost is banished from the board, and the haunter goes away. Now he did that because he didn't want to get haunted later. And then we go into red. Welcome back. The players made it to the last Wufeng. They actually defeated 3 of them, but it's looking pretty grim. Yellow just died, and blue just died before that. It's now red's turn, so he's going to draw a card. He got a red one, so it goes on the open space of his board. And now it's his turn, and green's death is pretty imminent because it's going to be pretty tough to get all these things off his board. But they're going to try. Red's going to roll the 3 dice and really hope that he defeats this guy here. He got 1 black, and green could lend him another one, but that's not quite enough. They were 1 black short of defeating that guy. So red's turn is over, and green's board, well, first this actually happens, so this is going to be haunted. And green would normally roll the curse die, but green's special ability is he doesn't ever have to roll the curse die. So that just happened, and then green's going to lose 1 chi for being overrun, so he loses all of his equipment as well. So unfortunately now it's blue's turn, and blue loses a chi because his board's overrun, so red has to suffer that consequence. And then yellow actually has to roll the curse die first, and this is here, by the way. And another guy is summoned. Now because all 12 spaces are full, instead of summoning, a chi is lost. And now all players have perished, unfortunately, before defeating the last Wufeng. Ghost Stories is so much fun. I really like the game, and I really like the theme, too. It's neat to be, a Taoist monk fighting with your brothers to banish the ghosts that are attacking the town. Also, all the powers, even within the same guy, because they have a front and a back power, are really different. So it's fun to try and mix and match different powers together, even just playing as different powers to see how the game unfolds. Because they really play differently, like from color to color, and even back to front can be sometimes surprisingly different. Also, people I've played the game with tend to have different strategies strategies. Some people like to just charge at the ghost and roll the dice and see what happens, and other people like to really hoard up a lot of tokens and be more conservative. And it's fun because there's really no right or wrong way to do it, and it makes for a neat game every time. Also, the ghosts just keep coming, and then there's always those tense moments before a Wufeng pops up where everybody's like, oh my gosh, which one's it going to be? What's going to happen? And, there's that constant thing of, oh, we got to go help green, he's overrun. Oh, we got to go help red, he's overrun. It just keeps the game real fun, and everybody really does need to work together to win. So as a cooperative game, it's top-notch. It's absolutely fantastic.